Okay, so there we go. We are live. So basically, the problem we've got is right. So why am I not seeing it? Um, I guess. Oh, yeah, but there we go. Right. Want to open that. Right. So I want to go to my channel there. No. Um, no, we don't want that. We want where's my channel? My channel. Where's yeah? I want to get that. And what I want to do is not that. Yeah. What I want to do is and what I want to not that. Yeah. What I want to do is and what I want to not that. Not there. Damn, I can't get it. Hold on. Can I not get that? Yes, I can. I can do that. But there's what we wanted. Okay. Okay, so we've got that working so far. And so yeah, so I think you can hear me now. So breaking news last night: Donald Trump and Melania Trump, First Lady, have both tested positive for the coronavirus. This is a day or so after one of his closest aides also tested positive. Someone who was in both Air Force One and Marine Force One, and also a whole bunch of other people from his campaign, a whole bunch of people from the White House, some senators and representatives are flown with him. This is the guy who keeps saying it's all fake, or did start saying it was all fake at the beginning of the year. It's a Democratic fake news trying to make him look bad. Told us face masks don't matter. Told us that chloroquine would stop you from catching coronavirus. Put that forward. Took a 14-day course himself. Didn't seem to have helped any. But let's actually hear what the news is saying at the moment, and I'll shut up for a bit.
Right, and there's so much we don't know about SARS-CoV-2, but from the beginning, the recommendations from...
This is them all going to Marine One, the president's helicopter. None of them wearing masks. They're all going to be in a confined space. This is Hope Hicks here. She was the first person this week on Thursday morning. She tested positive, and she was flying with the president on Thursday night and on Tuesday. So when she caught it, and you could have it, I suppose, for a few days before it builds up in your system and you test positive. So if she had it for a couple of days before she tested positive, maybe she's the one that infected Trump. But who did she catch it off of? This is because you've got to track back. Who gave it to who, when did they get it, that sort of thing.
The CDC was that anyone within 6 feet of distance for more than 15 minutes of time exposure to a known positive case was considered at risk. And certainly without one or both people wearing masks, we don't know if that was the case with Hope Hicks and the president. But this is a virus that has shown that it is readily transmissible, and we haven't known a lot during the course of this pandemic because it is so new, but prolonged close contact has been known since the beginning. So, this is just a demonstration that, in fact, no one is immune from becoming infected with SARS-CoV-2.
All right, Dr. Jennifer Ashton there, please stay with us. I want to bring in my colleague Mona Kosar Abdi as well. And Mona, to read that tweet one more time from the president, he said, tonight, Flotus and I tested positive for COVID-19. We will begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. We will get through this together. We know the president is also at the White House with the First Lady. So let's bring in our chief White House correspondent, Jonathan.
What you'll hear as well is they'll say that we've tested positive and we're quarantining and beginning our recovery. They haven't got sick yet. Let's be absolutely clear. The fact that you test positive for the coronavirus does not mean you're sick. It means that you're infected and you could become sick. But they are not sick yet, so they're not recovering from anything. What's happening right now inside their body is trying to identify this new virus and fight it off. Now, it's possible that they will get special medical attention, they will get some viral drugs or something which might help their body, boost their immune system, and they might fight it off, then they might never get sick. But we won't know whether Donald Trump or the First Lady is going to get sick for at least the next 10 days. Could be 15. It could be up to 15 days before you actually become sick. It just depends on how well your body's immune system fights the virus off. If you don't fight it off well, if you're in the high risk group, I think Donald Trump is old and he's borderline obese. Melania looks fit and healthy, but you just don't know. So we won't know at all whether Donald Trump gets sick until he starts showing symptoms of corona. He's not showing any symptoms at the moment. He's just showing detectable antibody reaction in his blood. That's all that it's saying is you've got coronavirus, your body is showing antibodies, and that's how we know that you're testing positive for having the virus. The virus has not done anything bad to your system yet. Your body's fighting it off. If your body fails to fight it off enough, then you get sick. Then you'll get breathing problems and all that, attacks the respiratory system. But if it doesn't show any symptoms, if it doesn't start coughing and sneezing and, finding it hard to breathe, then, he will have survived corona with, asymptomatic corona. Some people get it, recover from it, and they didn't even know they had it because it didn't overcome their immune system. We just have to wait and see what happens over the next 10 days with Donald Trump and Melania and Hope Hicks and any others who might have been on Air Force One, Marine One, who might have caught it off of them or been the people that gave it to them, who knows. So yeah, you're going to hear this, that they're in quarantine and recovering. They're not recovering because they haven't got any symptoms yet. They haven't come down with coronavirus symptoms. The coronavirus is the virus that gives you illness. The illness is not the coronavirus. The coronavirus is what causes the illness. Like a flu. The flu doesn't cause your lungs to fill with liquid. It's your body fighting that virus that causes your body to fill, your lungs to fill with liquid. They haven't shown any of those symptoms yet. So they can't be recovering from something they don't have. They're tested positive for the virus. They're not showing any symptoms or illness yet. So they can't be recovering from an illness they don't have. This is bullshit. So don't listen to it. It doesn't mean anything.
Carl, Jonathan, what do you know?
Well, we have the statement from the White House saying that, quote, the President and First Lady are both well at this time, and they plan to remain at home within the White House during their convalescence. A truly remarkable...
Again, they're not convalescing from anything. They're waiting to see if they get ill. That's what they're doing. They haven't become ill yet. They're waiting to see if they become ill. Once they become ill, then they'll have to convalesce, recover.
Statement. It goes on, the White House medical team and I will maintain a vigilant watch, and I appreciate the support provided by some of the country's greatest medical professionals and institutions. Rest assured, I expect the President to continue carrying out his duties without disruption while recovering, and I will keep you updated on future developments. That is the statement from White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany for Kayleigh McEnany from the doctor, Dr. Sean Conley, the White House physician. I mean, this is a truly shocking development. We are a month out from the presidential campaign. From the presidential election. You have, a quarantine period would normally be 14 days. He's positive. Who knows? Certainly that would be a minimum, raising the likelihood, if not certainty, that for at least half of this campaign going forward, the president will be under quarantine. And the situation could be far beyond that as well.
And John, earlier when the president tweeted out that Hope Hicks tested positive, he said, "We will begin our quarantine process." He said it before he announced that he was testing positive. Even in this week's debate, he was essentially mocking Joe Biden, has mocked Joe Biden for how often he wears masks in public. Do you think that this will reflect negatively then on his campaign approach about saying that he was going to hold live rallies,
No, I don't think this will reflect negatively on President Trump. His supporters have seen wearing of masks as sort of like a democratic thing. They've politicised it. And he's seen this, Donald Trump's seen this, and he went along with it. Oh, you don't need to wear a mask, it's a choice, blah, 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 right? It's not going to affect his political base. But will it have a negative effect? Well, I don't see him doing any more rallies, so it might have some effect. But only time will tell. I don't think anybody can say whether this is going to have a negative effect on President Trump's election run. It's a wait and see situation. Yeah.
Rallies without social distancing, without people wearing masks. He said that he does maintain a distance, but we see now that he has tested positive. How does this change the campaign going forward?
Yeah, he didn't catch this from participating in rallies. Some people in the crowd might have caught it from other people in the crowd, but he didn't. He caught this from people inside the White House. This is not the first time people in the White House have tested positive, be it, people who work for the White House, people who are, working for the campaign, or staff in the White House. I think one of the people that tested positive was one of the guys who dresses him and puts his clothes out in the morning, butler, whatever you call it. I think one of the housemaids got it as well. People who make beds and stuff. It was fine. They were fine with that. Those are workers. It's nothing to do with the White House, the running of the White House, or the campaign. So, but now that we're seeing people in the campaign, his head of the campaign, who runs his campaign, he was there, getting on, Marine One with Hope Hicks. If he's got it, he's going to have to quarantine. Can he actually run the campaign if he's quarantined? I'm sure they'll try, but it's going to be difficult. This could affect his campaign in such a way that certain people who are prominent in the running and the ideas that the campaign use might not be able to sit in a room with other people. They might have to do it in telecalls or Skype or Zoom or whatever they're using. So it might disrupt it a little bit, but I don't see it having a great impact on the campaign. I really don't.
Forward.
Well, look, the president had 5 campaign events scheduled. He was supposed to be campaigning in Florida today, Friday. He was scheduled to be in Wisconsin. He had a full campaign schedule. Obviously, that all goes out the window. But you raise.
Yeah, and more to the point, it's not just the rallies, but it's the fundraising. This could impact Donald Trump's fundraising. Is the campaign in financial problems? People have said that the campaign isn't raising as much as Joe Biden. I don't know if that's a thing or not. There's plenty of billionaire Republicans who can just chip in $100 million, and sort that out. So I don't see it as a problem. Really, a small glitch is all I can see it being. It's still going to come down to what happens in 30 days' time or something like that.
It's a really important point. The president has gone forward with, as if the pandemic was a thing of the past. In fact, he just spoke via video to New York's Al Smith dinner, talking about the pandemic as something that was very soon going to be over. This has been his theme. Those have been his words, but it's also been his actions.
Yeah, but I mean, the people who support Donald Trump don't really care about the pandemic. They want the economy open. They want Wall Street to keep running. They've got stocks and shares and been involved in all this. They want to see that part of the economy grow. They really don't care about the ordinary worker or the people who work in meat factories. I don't think this is going to have any big effect upon the people who support Donald Trump. They really don't care about the coronavirus, the pandemic, or anything like that. I think basically what we're going to see is a lot of right-wing bloggers and right-wing news, maybe even Fox News, and maybe even the president himself start to come out with conspiracy theories that Joe Biden infected him or got him infected at the first debate. Something like that is going to come out, I guarantee it. And they're going to try and blame the Democrats for him getting corona. If that doesn't happen, I'll be very, very surprised.
The president announced Amy Coney Barrett as his nominee for the Supreme Court vacancy created by the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg at the White House over the weekend. It was an event that was held in the Rose Garden. It was a Rose Garden that was packed. People seated shoulder to shoulder, virtually nobody there wearing masks. This has been routine. This is the way. I mean, I was out at the debate in Cleveland, and you saw the president's staff. He had 20 seats set aside for family and advisors, and almost none of them were wearing masks. At one point, somebody from the Cleveland Clinic, which hosted the debate, had to come in and hand out masks to the president's family. And
the breaking news coming out of Washington, where President Trump has tested positive for COVID-19 along with the First Lady. Earlier, we were looking at the White House, where the president and the First Lady are in quarantine after testing positive. This is an incredible moment in history, Mona. I'm pretty sure that the White House, at least in modern history, has not been the site or the scene of a infectious disease quarantine, but this morning it is.
And the situation is developing. Once the sun comes up, it is going to be a whole different day, different coverage, different campaign going forward. The Trump campaign, we haven't heard from them yet and how they plan on addressing this situation going forward. The president has, in his own words, said that he downplayed the virus so that he didn't create panic. He has been openly critical of mask wearing, openly critical of the former Vice President Joe Biden wearing masks in public. And now that he has contracted the virus, we want to know how the campaign plans on moving forward.
And we are
came to life when the President of the United States announced that he and the First Lady have contracted COVID-19. Let me say that again. President Trump has coronavirus. We had another show ready to go for you. That show is gone.
I'm sorry about the noise
Instead,
outside.
we're going to get straight to the biggest news of the day, perhaps the biggest news of the...
I'm sorry about the noise outside. I've got the Scottish Water digging the pavement up to fix some leak in a pipe. They've been there for 2 days and they still haven't found the leak yet. I thought they had ground penetrating radar to find this crap. 2 bloody days I've been there digging. I've not been able to stream my games or anything. I might have to quit this if they don't shut the fuck up,
year. And I say that because while doctors say the president is fine right now, what happens next is very, very uncertain. Let's start the morning with our team at the White House, John Santucci and Jordan Phelps, along with our chief medical correspondent, Dr. Jennifer Ashton. John, you and I were talking last night as this was becoming a possibility. Can you just break down how this shifted really in just a matter of hours?
I really want to go backwards in time, Brad. I mean, so long story short, what happened here is Bloomberg first reported that a White House aide tested positive for the coronavirus, said it was an aide very close to the president's. We immediately started working the phones, and almost as soon as I heard a source tell me it was Hope Hicks, Bloomberg went out with a flash breaking news that it was indeed one of the closest advisors to the president being Hope. I can't stress enough that just after that, the sheer panic that ran around the White House because of it, knowing the closeness the president has with Hope. She is someone that has been with him for years. She is always by his side. She had traveled with him for a majority of this week, and this was a very busy week for the president, Brad.
I stand before you today to fulfill one of my highest and most important duties under the United States Constitution, the nomination of a Supreme Court justice.
I mean, just going back to last weekend, you had a Supreme Court nominee in the Rose Garden. You had training sessions for the debate. You had a new update that he did in the Rose Garden about the coronavirus. You had multiple campaign trips. You had a presidential debate.
By the way, some news broke earlier this evening. Hope Hicks, who's worked for you a long time, is tested positive for coronavirus.
What happened next, Brad, is the president going on Hannity saying that he was going to be tested.
I just went out for a test. They just do it. It'll come back later, I guess. And the First Lady also, because we spend a lot of time with Hope and others. So we'll see what happens. But
that raised a lot of alarm bells to folks on the outside of this White House that are still close to it, saying, wait, how did they not know yet? The president gets rapid tests. This does not make any sense.
This is an ABC News special report.
And then, like every time Donald Trump breaks news to the American people, it came via tweet, Brad.
The breaking news that President Trump and the First Lady have tested positive for the coronavirus. Again, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump have tested positive for COVID-19. The president tweeted this just moments ago, this statement.
Tonight, Flotus and I tested positive for COVID-19. We'll begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. We will get through this together. There's so many questions that now come forward. What happens next? Who else is going to be tested, Brad? Have they gone through proper contact tracing because of the people that have been around the president, have been around Hope Hicks? I can tell you, Brad, I have spoken to multiple individuals last night and early this morning. All of them tell me, and this is key, none of them have been contacted about contact tracing, but some of them proactively plan to get tested first thing this morning.
Wow. And so I want to go back to the Hope Hicks connection. But Dr. Jennifer Ashton, I mean, the most important question right now is about the safety of the president of the United States, right? What do we know? And
President, all we can do is go by statistics and speak in general terms. So let's look at those general terms.
You remember when the guy who just wrote the book, I think it's called Rage, he interviewed Donald Trump for, I don't know, was it 12 hours, 28 hours, something like that. And on that, Donald Trump was saying, you know, when I interviewed him way back in the beginning of the year, he was saying COVID, it's in the air. You know, you breathe it in. It's not just about touching things. You can decide not to touch things, but you've got to breathe, and it's in the air. And if you get this, it's a killer. It'll get you know, it'll kill you. You know. And now sort of like nobody really cares about that. The fact that he knew how dangerous it was and basically did nothing about it for months, and even now he's not really pushing it. I mean, he could have just said to all these companies, right, stop making, you know, whatever it is you're making, and start making masks, start making face guards, start making protective gowns for you know, for your hospital workers, and you know, you know, people in the Senate, people in the House, people in the White House, you know, they should all have been wearing face masks and stuff. Like, you know, no, he went around saying it's all fake, you don't have to, you know, in public. Well, behind the scenes, he was telling people how serious and dangerous it was. And this could be karma, you know. If he'd have just done what Joe Biden was doing, wear a mask everywhere, he probably wouldn't have it. If all his supporters were wearing masks, none of them who have become sick would have got it. If he'd have told the churches to wear masks when they're sitting, none of these big outbreaks in churches would have been seen. If he'd have told the CDC and FDA to get into all these meat producing factories and you know, get them to use proper, you know, personal protection, none of these outbreaks in the meat factories would have been seen. He's done absolutely nothing through the whole year. You know, is he responsible for 180,000 deaths? Possibly. if he'd have done all these things that I've just said, you could possibly have only seen 20 to 40,000 people infected in America, not 200. Boris Johnson pretty much did the same. For the first half of the year he did bugger all. Then he started to take it serious after he caught it and survived. So yeah, maybe after he survives he'll change his tune, but I don't see it. If he survives, doesn't get sick, doesn't really get ill, he'll probably turn around and just continue the way he's going, thinking that he's immune to it, and you know, who cares? Because he never really cares about anybody else but himself. I wonder what stupid things he'll start saying from his quarantine room, you know, because it's bound to be something idiotic. He's going to be tweeting crap every fucking night. I don't know what he's going to be tweeting, but it's going to be absolute fucking ridiculous bullshit. Well, that's for sure, you know.
Being a man, twice the mortality risk at every age group. We've seen that basically from the beginning of published data about COVID-19. Being 74 years of age, 5 times the risk of needing hospitalization due to complications of COVID-19 as compared to the age group of 18 to 29. And then obesity, having a body mass index or BMI of 30, 3 times higher risk of requiring hospitalization. So again, these are general risk factors in medicine, Diane.
And remember, he's got a body mass index of 30.5. So having a body index of 30 puts you in another dangerous category. He's 30.5, just over that, which definitely puts him in that dangerous category, plus his age over 70. You know, we really need to wait for the next 10 days and see if he actually gets any symptoms. If his body fights it off, we'll know within about 10 days, I would think. So that's basically what we're basically sitting and waiting to see what happens. Mike Pence, has Pence been in the vicinity of Hope Hicks, Donald Trump, the First Lady, the people in his campaign who might have it? Whoever gave Hope Hicks it, where did she get it? You know, you don't just catch it in, you know, out of thin air. You must catch it off of somebody. Maybe the air that they breathe out, you're breathing in. That's how you get it. So who did Hope Hicks get it from? They have to track that. They need to find out who it is that's spreading it. It could be someone who's asymptomatic in the White House. So they basically have to retest every single person in the White House, every single person Hope Hicks has been meeting and talking to. Got to get that phone off her, find out every meeting she's had, check her diary, check everybody she's met over the last week. Will they do it? Don't know, but that's basically what they have to do, you know.
And every patient is treated as an individual, and we have to take that individual patient day by day.
Understood. And we still don't know how many people in the White House, as John said, may be impacted by this. We know that the vice president and the second lady have tested negative. But the president was at the debate on Tuesday, a rally in Minnesota on Wednesday, and in New Jersey yesterday. So what happens now in terms of trying to track and trace others who may have been exposed?
So remember the basic tenets of controlling an outbreak: test, trace, isolate. We heard Jonathan say, we heard you use correct terminology. When you are infected, when you are ill, the term is isolation. If you are just exposed, the term is quarantine, and the recommendations are for someone exposed to a known case of COVID-19 to quarantine for 14 days. In general, risk of becoming infected, just released data out of India where they looked at over 500,000 people and did extensive contact tracing. The risk of becoming infected anywhere from 4.7% to 10.7%. Again, that depends on the proximity, whether someone was masked, how close, how long, but for sure that process of contact tracing who was in contact with Hope Hicks and the president and the first lady, and expecting that there will be more confirmed cases. We also have to remember, Diane, no test is 100% accurate. Even the PCRs, which are the gold standard, can have a false negative rate. So I would be expecting a lot of people who have been in those circles to be getting multiple tests in the days ahead.
And Dr. Ashton, I know you were on in the middle of the night with this breaking news. What was the reaction when you heard it?
Well, my reaction, Diane, was as a practicing physician, which is that, from the beginning, this pandemic story has had heavy political and societal and behavioral storylines and undertones and implications. I stay firmly in my lane, which is the medical lane. And the analogy here is that if you diagnose someone who's been a lifelong cigarette smoker with lung cancer, you don't blame the patient for their disease. So we stay in the present, we evaluate the patient, we take care of the patient based on their individual set of circumstances, and in looking to the future, then try to modify behavior. So important, because of course our behavior matters, but medicine in general should be a judgment-free zone.
All right, Dr. Jennifer Ashton, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane.
Yeah, I mean, he's got COVID. I'm not blaming him for that, but how did he get it? You know what I mean? Behaviour matters. You can call him out for his behaviour, not wearing the mask. Kissing, you've seen him there. Meeting Hope Hicks in the Rose Garden when he was doing some presentation thing and kissing her. No, not even respecting the 6 foot. You know what I mean? Distancing, I'm not surprised he's got it. I've been wondering why he hasn't got it before, because he is basically misusing the power of his office by not telling people to safe distance and wear masks. I'm surprised that he hasn't got it and the whole White House hasn't got it. Now that he has got it, well, I'm not saying he deserves it. What I'm saying is it's not surprising to me that him and people in the White House have got it. I've been wondering why they haven't got it up to now. I was thinking maybe, conspiracy here. Maybe they've got some kind of, medicine that staves it off, and they're not telling people, you know what I mean? Who the hell knows? But obviously not. They have got it now eventually, probably because of their personal behaviour more than anything. I mean, if he can't be protected, who can? This is it. I mean, if he can't be protected when everybody around the building gets a quick 20-minute test every morning, how the hell does any of us survive it? Personally, myself, I've been quarantining myself and my parents since February. I'm the only person that goes into shops, goes shopping, interacts with people. Even all my parents have got health problems. They've had multiple cancellations of hospital visits, because the hospital is the most dangerous place to go. The hospitals are taking people in who aren't just got the virus, but are suffering from symptoms. They've actually that their body is fighting it and failing, and they need hospital treatment. That's where you're probably going to catch it, if anywhere, if you go to the hospital. So the hospitals have been cancelling a lot of unnecessary, going for chest exams, MRIs, stuff like that. They're just cancelling them and putting them off until things get better. But yeah, I've been keeping my house basically a quarantine zone, apart from me going out to do shopping once a fortnight, go to the shops every couple of days for milk and bread, stuff like that. Cigarettes from my dad, a bottle of whiskey from my dad, now and then. That's basically all I've been doing, and staying in the house, I've been doing the right thing. None of us have got it, thank God. And nobody is, sick in my house. My sister's got it. Well, she's not got it, but she's quarantining because her daughter's friends' family have all got it. So there's a chance that my sister's daughter caught it off a friend in school. So they're quarantined. They're in the house. They're going to order food through the internet. I went over, they order food, but there's a whole load of people over in her place who are all quarantined. And they've all been buying food on the internet, obviously, and the supermarkets in the area are swamped. They told my sister, she ordered food on a Friday, they said we can't deliver it to Monday. So I went out and did a shop. My dad drove me over, I left the food at the gate. Says, so there you go, there's food to see you through. It's a week's worth of food until you get your food delivered. And then we came back, Simple as that. I kept my mask on there, and as I say, I just put the food over the gate into her driveway and walked away, and she came down and picked it up, thanked us, we waved for the car, because we we're trying to, even from family, we're distancing, social distancing, because the only way to survive and not get corona is to not get it. Do you know what I mean? The only way to survive is to not get it. That's 100% chance of not dying from it, is don't get it. Why take the risk, even with family members, who are at risk because they opened the schools up and her daughter went back to school? I was not for the schools opening up for 15-year-olds. And anybody over 7 or 8-year-old, I was saying, shouldn't be going to school, because they're starting to get to that rebellious stage where they don't think it's going to affect them, and who cares, you know what I mean? And they get their minds go, they want to do what they want to do. Smaller kids, 5 to 7, 5 to 8, they'll do what a parent tells them. They'll do what an adult tells them. But after 8, 9-year-old, they start to have their own minds and they want to do things, and they'll do it and not tell you they've done it. So you don't know. That's kids for you, right? So I don't believe we should be letting kids of the teens age go to school. We should be teaching them on the internet. They should set up a system where multiple teachers do streams, and you can log in and learn from video conferencing kind of thing on Zoom or whatever. That's what I would have done. They could have set this up months ago. The teachers would have been on board. I'm sure the parents and kids would have been on board. They could even give out free tablets to kids. You could get the tech companies on board for that. Bulk buy by the government, give them out to schools and colleges and stuff like that. I don't understand why all this stuff wasn't being done. It's what I'd have done if I was a fucking, the Prime Minister, or Prime Minister, you know what I mean, of the UK. Our Prime Minister did fuck all, you know what I mean. Donald Trump also did fuck all, freezing people. So I don't know if I'm just smarter and brighter than these people, but it seems fucking so, Goddamn fucking idiots. Anyway, so let's go.
And so there are some big concerns about the president's age, putting him at greater risk when it comes to this virus. But as of right now, President Trump's physician says the president and the first lady are both well at this time, and that he will maintain.
Of course they're well. They've only just caught it. They've only just caught it. Even if you just caught smallpox, it wouldn't kill you in fucking 24 hours. You can eat poison mushrooms, it doesn't make your kidneys and liver shut down for 7 days. We've got to wait. All this bullshit, they're healthy now. Yeah, they've just been diagnosed as having it, you know what I mean? God damn, these people, oh, it's fine, he's no deed. Yeah, of course he's not. He's just been told that he's maybe sick, we don't know yet. He's showing symptoms of having caught a virus. The virus has to build up, has to multiply hundreds of millions of times inside you before it does any damage. It doesn't do that overnight.
Maintain a vigilant watch. Terry Moran joins us now with more. And Terry, we know this virus, as Dr. Ashton said, it affects people differently, so you never know what will happen. And so, we hate to entertain it, but what happens if the president becomes unable to do his job?
Well, Pence takes over, didn't he? Is it 25th Amendment? Pence gets to be sworn in temporarily until the president recovers or whatever happens.
Well, that is a possibility, obviously, with this disease. And what happens is the 25th Amendment to the Constitution kicks in. There have been times in our past where we've had incapacitated presidents. President Wilson had a stroke. President Garfield was shot. He lingered for months. That was all fixed after the shooting of John F. Kennedy. The 25th Amendment provides 2 ways for the president to transfer authority temporarily, one voluntary, the other involuntary, to the vice president to become acting president. And it's very simple. If President Trump at any time feels he's unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, he just submits a written declaration saying that to the Senate and the House, and Vice President Pence becomes acting president. Now, that's happened 3 times in our history. Excuse me, President Reagan once and President George W. Bush twice voluntarily transferred the powers and duties of the presidency to their vice presidents when they underwent elective surgeries. What if any president falls so ill or is otherwise incapacitated that they can't make that written declaration? Well, then the vice president convenes the cabinet under the Constitution, and the cabinet then will vote. If a majority votes, they will submit a written declaration saying the president is unable, and then the president, upon recovering, can reclaim the presidency. So this is not a usurpation. It is an attempt to bring order to a very difficult situation.
And the vice president has tested negative for the virus. So I asked this from a completely hypothetical standpoint, but what would happen if they were both unable to do the job?
It would go to the Speaker of the House, I believe.
Well, that is also provided for by the Constitution and the law, although there are some questions around it. The short answer is Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, under a law passed in 1947, would become the president. Excuse me, she'd resign.
Is he choking on saying this? Is he like choking that, what if Pence is he like, oh my God, what if Pence gets on, a Democrat could end up being president? Well, that's the way your Constitution was written, mate. And I bet you people will fight it. I bet you the Republicans would goddamn fight it if that happened. If Pence had to quarantine and Pence and Trump fell ill and had to be put on, what do you call them, ventilators, unable to do their duty, and Nancy Pelosi was stepping forward saying it's time for me to, temporarily take office, I bet the Republicans would fight it. I bet they'd be screaming, Supreme Court, save us. You know what I mean? I guarantee they would,
Resign, and she would become the acting president. The problem with that is some constitutional scholars reading the Constitution as it was written way back in the 70s.
This wasn't put into place way back. This is stuff that's happened since we've had some presidents shot and some presidents fall ill and some presidents go for elective surgery. These laws were put in place after the Constitution was written to protect America from not having someone acting president. So it's all bullshit about some scholars talk about what happened back in 1775 because it's got nothing to do with 1775. The precedent was set in the 20th century. You know what I mean? So fuck you and your scholars for the 1770s.
1980s. They note that the Constitution says that if the vice president and president are both unable to be president, the next officer is the Secretary of State, keeping it in the executive department. We could have a problem if Secretary...
No, we couldn't have a problem because it's already been precedent. This has all been set up. You talk about the 1700s, this stuff is all more present day. We run by the present day. I mean, guns. Gun legislation. Do you want to go into the Constitution and say when it was written, back in the 1780s, it was to do with muskets, and therefore every other gun is illegal? No, you fucking wouldn't. So don't go back to the 1700s because you think it suits your stream of thought or ideas.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the Constitution won't allow someone from another party in another branch of government to become president, even if the Congress passed a law. Who would decide that? That's never come. We never come anywhere near that. But right now, and most people accept that if President Trump and Vice President Pence were both somehow incapacitated, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi would resign, and she would become the acting president.
All right, Terry Moran for us in Washington. Thanks, Terry.
She doesn't need to resign. She can become acting president and let someone else take over her duties until such time as she's no longer president. It's a temporary post. She temporarily gives up her job. She doesn't have to resign to take the presidency.
And with 32 days to go until the election, we can't ignore how this might affect the race for the White House. Let's go now to Mary Bruce in Washington. Mary, the president had a lot of travel planned for these next few weeks. There's supposed to be another presidential debate in less than 2 weeks. What happens now?
Well, what happens now is that the campaign trail, as we know it, is effectively ground to a screeching halt. The president, as you mentioned, has been basically campaigning nonstop. He was supposed to have an event in Florida today. That has obviously been canceled.
It's not a screeching halt. I mean, they continue, the president's campaign continues to put out adverts, put out flyers. They can have other people speaking. Pence could go and speak, because I'm sure he's running for vice president again, isn't he? So, you know, he can go and speak for the president. He could attend some of these rallies even in the president's place. I don't see why it has to screech to a halt. What's wrong with this, you know? Pence has got a debate coming up shortly, the first presidential debate. I'm sure he's not putting that off. He could continue there to say, and as for the president, you know what I mean, continue to support him. You'll get over this and you can vote for him, you know, on November 3rd. He's not dead. He's just quarantined, you know what I mean? What the hell? Screeching to a halt.
He has several more rallies on the books. Those are up in the air. It is really not clear how long the president is going to be isolated, but it is likely that he is going to miss a large chunk of time here in this very critical final stretch. Now, you mentioned the debates. Those are also up in the air right now. Joe Biden and President Trump have 2 more face-offs on the calendar. The next one in just 2 weeks on October 15th. That is now.
Yeah, well, it's maybe not cancelled because, I mean, he could be recovered and out of quarantine in 2 weeks and back on the campaign trail. So, as I say, we just have to wait and see. It's going to take, 10 days? And in 10 days' time, if he's not showing any symptoms or any illness, I guarantee you he'll be back out, unquarantined, even if he doesn't do it before. I mean, I can't see Trump staying quarantined for more than 3 to 4 days. I reckon next week he'll be saying, no, I'm fine, I'm back out, you know, there's nothing wrong with me, you know.
Now, obviously, in jeopardy. The vice presidential debate is also set for next week on Wednesday. Since we know the vice president has now tested negative, that one seems to be a little bit less up in the air, but everything, there are just so many questions here about what this campaign now looks like going forward. And I think big picture, Diane, you have to remember that this is just a huge blow to the president's message about the pandemic. He has been out there campaigning aggressively, arguing to his supporters that the country is rounding the corner, as he says, on the coronavirus, and that he can lead the country out of this crisis. He's been having these packed rallies to really prove that point. And the fact that the president himself has now tested positive just undercuts that entire message.
Yeah, that message is now debunked, and the pandemic is alive and, you know, strong in America. It's still alive and strong in Europe. We are all having a second bout of the virus here in Europe. I blame opening the pubs, restaurants and the schools myself. This is where we're seeing the outbreaks in these places. I was not for it, but I was not in power to say we're not doing it. Boris Johnson was, and even the leader in Scotland, the leader of the Parliament of Scotland, I was. When she said she's going to open the schools and we're going to deal with, you know, any outbreak, I was like, oh, please don't go there. But yeah, she went there. So even the head of the Scottish, you know, the Scottish National Party, I think she was fucking wrong to go down that route. But all these politicians are all being pressured by companies and you know, to open up, to get some money coming in, to get some taxes coming in. I mean, this has been very expensive for every country, you know. You know, not getting any taxes, you know, business can't pay tax when they're not selling anything. So every country in the West has been bombed by, you know, bills to cover this and no money coming in. So I can see the pressure that politicians were under, but if they'd have clamped down on it really, really hard, like total close down, no movement of anybody for like, you know, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, we could have got over this back in fucking May. But no, they kept letting dribs and drabs of people move about and infect each other. You know what I mean? It's goddamn. Anyway.
And Mary, the president and Biden were on stage together for that debate on Tuesday. They didn't shake hands or appear to go near each other, but there is some concern there. What is Joe Biden saying this morning?
Well, Joe Biden, we did just hear from him. He put out a tweet sending his well wishes to the president and the first lady. And sources tell us that Joe Biden is being tested this morning. We know he is regularly tested, and his campaign goes to great lengths, I can tell you, having spent some time at these events, to make sure that when he is out there on the trail, that it is done so in a manner that is in accordance with local guidelines. But we did, of course, see them together for 90 minutes on that debate stage just on Tuesday night. They were socially distanced, but they weren't married. wearing any masks. We do not know if they had any closer contact or cross paths in any other way during the night. And also there were reports, of course, that the members of the president's inner circle were sitting there in the debate audience not wearing masks themselves. I can tell you I did, in fact, see some of those close to the president walking around, the debate hall without masks on. So there are a lot of questions about how far this reaches. And in the same way that this is a blow to the president's campaign message, Joe Biden has been out there campaigning in a very different way from the president. He has done very few in-person events. Those that he has done have been, with a very limited audience at a safe distance. He's always wearing his mask unless he is very far away from people, because his campaign is trying to argue, that this virus is very much still a real threat. Diane.
All right. And Mary, we saw the president's pick for Supreme Court, Judge Amy Coney Barrett at the White House with the president on Saturday. Could this disrupt the nomination process at all?
I don't think so. The nomination process, it's been nominated, it's moved to the Senate now. The Senate is probably going to pass her. They're going to have a vote and pass her to become the Supreme Court judge within the next probably 2 to 3 weeks, I would think.
Oh. Yeah, because it could, and there are real concerns about that this morning, because, of course, she met with the president and then went up to the Hill and was also meeting with congressional leaders. Of course, there's always, a lot of contact between the Hill and the White House. There's a lot of questions this morning about members of Congress who may have potentially been in contact with those who are.
But he was sick last week, and there was Hope Hicks. I don't think she's got it. She's probably getting a test right now anyway, but no. I'm sure that the Senate, maybe one or two of them might test positive, but I'm sure they'll find a way for them to fucking vote in proxy or some fucking thing.
Are now infected with this. There are a lot of, I think, questions circulating on the Hill, and perhaps tests being run up there as well. And we did.
I bet there is. I bet there's bundles of them getting tests, and they'll probably get the 20-minute test. But they need to get that 20-minute test for 2 or 3 days, because you can test false negative. You could maybe not have enough virus in your body to test positive. The first test you get. So you have to test to see what's happening. You don't just breathe a virus in and then you've got it and you test positive right away. It's got to build up in your system, and your antibodies might detect it and keep it suppressed for long enough that till it conquers your immune system and starts to spread.
Did just hear from Leader McConnell a short while ago in an interview where he made clear that the Republicans are going to take this very seriously. They are going to take every safety precaution possible, saying that it is all hands on deck when it comes to these precautions, because they simply cannot spare any votes here. They know they are not going to get any Democrats on board with Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation. They really can't afford to lose any Republicans or have Republicans not be able to show up to these hearings, not be able to show up to vote. Those hearings are expected to begin in just 2 weeks on the Hill. They are hoping to get this done, get her confirmed before Election Day, Diane.
All right, Mary Bruce in Washington for us. Thanks, Mary. And reaction has started pouring in from around the world. Ian Pannell is in London tracking that for us. Ian, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Diane. That's right. There's been widespread global reaction from India to China and here in Britain, where Prime Minister Boris Johnson just tweeted his best wishes to President Trump and the First Lady, saying, hope they both have a speedy recovery from coronavirus.
The coronavirus isn't what kills you, it's your body's reaction to the virus. And they've not had a bad reaction yet. It's like somebody eats a poisonous mushroom. I hope your recovery's going well. They haven't got poisoned yet. They've just ate the mushroom, It's like they've only just got the virus. It's not done anything to them yet. They can't recover for something that's not happened, right?
Of course, Johnson's one of a number of world leaders who knows exactly how terrible the disease can be, having spent weeks seriously ill in hospital himself. Remember, he was also in ICU on a ventilator for a while. Now, like President Trump and President Bolsonaro of Brazil, Johnson's also one of those leaders who's been accused of being skeptical or minimizing the risk.
He fucking was one of the ones to minimize it, even after he came out after recovering himself from it. He didn't put in place the proper measures to crush it in Britain. We are still getting 200 people a fucking day in Britain. And it's growing now because of the fucking second wave. Asshole. Fucking asshole,
of the virus, only to then discover firsthand how widespread and potentially devastating it can be. And amidst the well wishes today, there is also a tone of "I told you so," especially on social media. But for Vladimir Putin, for one, wholehearted in his sympathies, the Russian president sent a telegram, he doesn't tweet of course, saying, "I'm sure your inherent life, energetic cheerfulness and optimism will help you." There's also been widespread official sympathy across Asia, from India and from Pakistan and Turkey. Now, it's a national holiday in China, but the news trending on social media there, where many are responding with a mix of sympathy and banter. To the President of the European Council, who's also tweeting his wishes for a speedy recovery, but also added, "It's a battle we all continue to fight every day, no matter where we live." Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, like millions of Israelis, Sarah, his wife, and I are thinking of President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump, and wish our friends a full and speedy recovery. And German Chancellor Angela Merkel also sending her good wishes, saying, "I hope that they overcome the corona infection well and are soon completely healthy again." This has had an impact across the world, and many people are wishing.
And Merkel has said the right thing. She hopes they overcome the corona infection. She hopes that their body fights it off. Because if it doesn't, if your immune system doesn't fight it off, that's when you get sick. They're not sick yet, they're infected. They're fighting an infection. So I like how Merkel put it, because it's true. I don't like the idea of hope your recovery goes well. They're not recovering from it yet. They're not sick yet. Their body's fighting the illness. If the illness wins, then they will become sick. They are not sick yet, so they can't be recovering from a sickness they haven't had yet. Ridiculous, man.
Wishing the President and the First Lady a speedy recovery. Diane.
All right, Ian, panel for us in London. Thanks, Ian. And stock markets started falling sharply after the president announced he tested positive overnight. Our economic correspondent Deirdre Bolton joins us now with more on that. Deirdre, good morning. What's the latest on how this news is impacting the markets?
Oh, here we go. Here we go, the fucking stock market. Of course it's going to tank when he's said he's got corona. I don't know why. Is he actually going to the stock market and selling stocks? No. So why does it tank? Fuck people's brains, man.
Well, Diane, we expect to see a sell-off as soon as the stock market opens, and you really had that cause and effect. We know the president confirming the fact that he tested positive for the coronavirus around 1 a.m. Eastern time. And if you saw these stock charts, the futures charts right at that moment, the Dow futures fell by about 500 points. That means at the open, we can expect a drop of about 1.5%. And I want to say it looks at the moment all futures in red. That is to say the selling will be broad. So even the areas that investors have gone to as sort of safe haven plays, think of all the big tech companies that we all know very well. They even seem that they're going to be indicating a lower open here. Diane, one other thing to note, this just adds this overlayer of uncertainty. It's not like we don't have enough to worry about as it is, but the president confirming that he tested positive, that adds a reminder to every investor out there, the virus is still with us. Numerous economists have told me the economy is the virus is the economy. That's there. We know we have an election coming up. We know there are questions about another round of stimulus.
Fucking half of America is on fire. I don't see the fucking stock market tanking because of that.
So investors really have a lot to weigh. And the president confirming he tested positive, that just added another layer of uncertainty. Normally never bodes well for market performance, Diane.
And Deirdre, the final jobs report ahead of the election was released about an hour ago. What are those numbers showing?
It's a mixed picture, but the takeaway is that the recovery is downshifting. So that's not the brightest picture that we could see. And if you look to some of the key headlines, fewer jobs were added to the U.S. economy than many economists had hoped and were forecasting. we did have an improvement, if you like, in the unemployment rate. We're down around 7.2%. That is much better than what we saw in August. But I reached out to Michelle Mayer. She is the chief of U.S. economics at Bank of America. And she said really what's concerning to her is the drop in the labor market force participation rate. So it just means more people are staying out of the labor force, whether that's by choice or not by choice. They are staying out, and they are staying out for a longer period of time.
So, yeah, that 7.9% unemployment rate, that's people who are signed up for unemployment. But there's tens of millions of people who are unemployed who haven't even bothered to sign up. They just gave up looking for a job. So they're not even looking for it. So they're not in these figures. So it could still be 12% unemployment in America. You just don't know.
So that's concerning to a lot of economists, again, just showing our recovery is downshifting, Diane.
And Deirdre, one of the things that we heard Trump and Biden debate about the recovery was whether it's V-shaped or K-shaped. Can you explain those briefly?
Please. Let's
wear a mask amongst that small group because he's obviously trying to court them. He did a round table, our understanding is, in Bedminster with supporters. So think about that for a second. Talk about the responsibility of that for a second.
So, first I would say Nancy Pelosi is not being serious. If she becomes serious, then we can have a discussion here. But
the White House press secretary, who was a part of that close-knit group that Hope is often around, and others, and the president, gave a press briefing yesterday. What was the White House taking to mitigate this? And frankly, Brad, it does not really seem like much.
Yeah, and I know that we're about to bump up again. I think Dr. Jennifer Ashton has to get going soon, so I feel like...
Well, can I actually... I have a stupid question for Dr. Jen, actually.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things that we're hearing from our sources is that Hope is experiencing symptoms. And for someone that, is not asymptomatic, that is experiencing symptoms, if she was around, as you say, an older individual, a man, people who are more prone to get this thing, does that mean in some way it's possible that, they could get a pretty severe case of that as well?
Well, that's actually not a stupid question. It's a great question, and the science on that is evolving. There is some suggestion, I want to underscore suggestion, that people who have symptoms may have what's called a higher viral load, so literally more viral particles, possibly making them more contagious or infectious. But again, we have to remember that, as we've heard pretty much from the beginning, 45% of people who are known to be infected with COVID-19 show no symptoms. And some people have vague flu-like symptoms. This symptomatology is really all over the place. So I wouldn't read too much into the tea leaves that Hope Hicks has symptoms. Every patient is different. Every patient is taken as an individual with his or her specific and personal risk factors. And we
except for the fact that if you're showing symptoms, it means that your immune system has not been able to defeat the virus. The virus has overcome your immune system, which means that, yes, it explodes inside your body. You have more virus particles in your body. You're breathing more out. You're sweating more out through your sweat. You know what I mean? It's invading every part of your body. It's attacking your lungs, your internal organs, maybe even your brain. It's now running rampant through your body, and you have got more to expose other people to. So yes, she had symptoms, not just she tested positive, but she was showing symptoms. That means that her body failed to fight the virus. The virus has won that battle, and she's probably going to end up having some severe symptoms later on. That means that President Trump might have got a heavier dose, which means that he's actually at risk as well of his body not being able to fight the virus and getting the symptoms and having a harder time to recover from it. I hope not. I don't know what would happen if President Trump ends up in the hospital. But it looks like it could be serious. If Hope Hicks has got symptoms and she's now, starting to show infection in the lungs and stuff like that, that could bode very badly for Donald Trump at his age and his borderline obesity. Yeah, it could be very, very bad. So we'll see anyway.
Just have to wait and see.
Our world these days,
where you get all the breaking new information of the day to help
I think
you
we've talked
navigate
enough
through
about
these
Donald Trump
times.
and the virus.
Why we're here.
Thank you very much, guys, for stopping by. If you
and
did,
making
to
sure
watch
you start your
my
day off with
stream
a smile
on
and
YouTube.
some sunshine.
Good morning, America.
Good morning, America.
I'm going to
Good
finish it
morning,
now
America.
and
oh, how I love saying that.
go and do other things. I can't
Welcome
watch
to
this
Disney
all
Plus.
day. So, yeah. Swanjiva, I'll catch you when I stream again. I'll probably be on Twitch later, streaming Medieval Dynasty or something like that. But yeah, who knows what's going to happen. It could be fine, you know, in 10 to 14 days we'll know. But it doesn't bode well that Hope Hicks is showing symptoms, and actually was on Air Force One with Donald Trump when she was showing symptoms, and then they quarantined her. She was actually in contact with Donald Trump when she was sick, basically. She was sick. She didn't just test positive, she was sick. So that doesn't bode well. We'll see what happens. This could be one of the turning points of the whole election. We'll find out in some time over the next 10 to 14 days. But yeah, we just have to, you know, wait and see, guys. Stand you fucking bad motherfuckers, and I'll see you later. Cheers.